There we go.
Okay, welcome to the Crow Community Meeting for Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. We are happy to see you all, and we follow the CNCF Code of Conduct, so please be kind to one another on this call. We're going to take a quick look at the meeting agenda, and we're going to go through and talk about a few of these topics, and I'm going to live figure out whether or not if I can screen share. I cannot, which is fine. Um, but please take a look at the meeting notes, which are in chat for now. Add your name if you would like to add your name and, if necessary, or if desired, affiliation. And yeah, let's kick it off with talking about news, DevRel, articles, videos. If you have added something, please go ahead. I will look immediately to Carlos because I know that he added something. Carlos, you want to tell us about what you may have live streamed just recently about Crow?
Yeah, I think some people know me already. I am part of the platformers community, and we do live streams around the platform engineering Kubernetes topic. So usually I'm the host on that one. I was the guest. So I um, did an an overview of Crow and show some examples of working with Crow, and then out of that, also like what I mean, like trying to build some of the demos, like finding kind of like best practices so far. I think that's one thing that we took out of like when to use include when or when ready, and um, what I mean, and then the last one was using cell when you can resolve something with cell versus going into I don't know. I just recorded a bad habit of using depends on like static dependencies versus implicit dependencies. I think that's a topic we start like writing some guidance around that as we develop the project. But I've seen people going into I don't say bad habits, like habits from a different tool, right? To something new like Cell, and then like doing more education or examples, or like people, because people don't know like, oh, can we do this with Cell, and like what are the libraries that we have with Cell. So I also had trouble with that, like finding out like what are the Cell things that I can do in Crow versus the ones that I can do in Kubernetes validation and mission or another project.
Wonderful. Great. So, thank you for sharing that, Carlos. And feel free to take a look at the notes, folks, and any of the other articles, videos, et cetera, that have come out. And remember, a lot of us participate in a lot of open source communities and use a variety or work for a variety of employers, et cetera. So we're not here to say somebody else has the wrong idea, somebody else does it wrong. We're just here to say, how can we all get this stuff to work together,
Yep.
um, to work as well as possible? Wonderful. Um, so yeah, some of these articles, of course, will definitely have a point of view, which is 100% fine. All right. Let's see, recurring topics. If we have any new people on the call who weren't on the call last time, I'm looking at you, Scott. If you want to unmute, say hi, tell us about yourself, and tell us about what your interest in Crow is.
Yeah, sure. I'm Scott Nichols. I used to be at Google, and then I did a stint through VMware and ChainGuard and LinkedIn. I have spent a lot of my development effort on making reconciliation frameworks in Knative and other places, and have taught tons of people how to do KRM-like things. And so Crow is interesting because there's about an 80% use case of just copy this to that. And so if we can make that successful and I don't have to write that code anymore, that's awesome. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome, thank you. All right, anyone else want to say hi and tell us about yourself?
I can introduce myself. Hi,
Mhm.
I'm Ash. I'm a CNCF ambassador, and I've worked at VMware and a startup in the dev environment space called Opteda before. Right now, I'm in between jobs, but I'm a friend of Amin's, and I met him last KubeCon, and he told me about this project he was building, and it really excited me. So I checked it out, and I've been contributing like small PRs here and there. So I'm looking forward to being like a more like playing, like doing more things around the project and helping around.
Wonderful. Welcome. Thank you. Great.
think I'll go.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Mhm,
I don't have my camera on yet here for today.
mhm.
I'm JD. I'm joining you guys here from a company called Pay by Phone. Um, we we actually had an idea internally to like we're building a developer platform and had an idea internally to build basically something similar to this operators where we can define custom APIs and like CRDs, and then kind of just stumbled upon Grow a couple of weeks ago. So this is the first meeting I'm joining here, and hopefully I'll be around for a few more.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, Simon.
Yeah, I can go. Hi, I'm Simon Kroom. I work at Microsoft in the container storage team. I've been looking at making it easier for users to consume storage. And one of the challenges they have is it's complicated to install multiple tiers of applications to make you best use of cloud providers. So I've kind of been exploring the ideas of sort of curated application stacks. So I'd be playing with Crossplane, and I came across Crow. I've been trying it out, really impressed. A few rough edges, but it works really well. So I'm just very interested in the community and seeing how I can help out.
Thank you. And that's such a good point, by the way, when you say, oh, I'm coming in, I'm checking this out, I'm seeing a few rough edges, and we think, ooh, that's a great opportunity to get some pull requests in there and really help create what you want it to be since this is such a new project.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
so it was great to see that the issue that I came across somebody had fixed last week. So I just had to repeat that.
Wow.
I'll have to look for the next thing. So
Fantastic. All right. Who else would like to say hi?
Hey, I'd like to say hi.
Hello. Tell us
Hello.
about yourself, Barney.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, I'm Barney. I have been involved with Crow, Amin, and the Microsoft team and the AWS team for the last year. We've been collaborating offline before the project started. So I work with Google, and we're really excited about Crow because it solves a lot of recurring patterns we've been trying to solve over the years. And I'm one of the maintainers of Crow. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm sorry, I just dropped my kid and I'm parked in the parking lot, so I'll unmute.
Oh,
I mean, mute myself.
well, thank you. Commitment. All right. Anybody else want to say hi before we dive into some of these topics?
Hi,
Again,
Siam. Maltiket. My name is Tzachi. I'm an AWS Solutions Architect. I'm very exciting from Crow and about to present some new demos in the near future.
Ooh, looking forward to that. Very exciting.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Okay, so we have a number of topics that we usually would go through, recurring topics, milestones, features, etc. I see that people added a bunch of open discussion items, so I would gonna take the opportunity to jump to those to make sure we get a chance to talk about anything people want to discuss before we make it to you know, milestones or anything like that. Um, let's see, Amin, do you want to share or the open discussion items, or just because I was not able to turn on screen sharing quite yet?
Sorry, sure. Yeah, I can share my screen. Give me 1 second.
Fantastic. And then as we go, if people want to drop anything more in the list, totally fine. Go right ahead. All right. The first topic somebody dropped in there is wanting to compare and contrast Crow with other tools. This is actually talked about on the website. Scott, since you added that comment, do you want to point people to, what you were thinking about, or?
I just remember reading it on the website. It kind of,
Yeah.
because I had the same question. I was like, what's the difference here? So
Yeah.
if you spend some time looking through the website and the documents, you'll get there.
Yeah. But I think the overall idea being, why Crow and why is it better than or different from this other thing? And of course, as we all know, the answer is no organization uses only one tool. And turns out you don't use a hammer for everything. You don't use a screwdriver for everything. And there's a lot of tools you use together as well. And Jesse, I believe, has something to add as well.
I do. I just wanted to tell the community, which I think I've said this before, and I will say it again, and probably in the form of a blog at some point. So we did not expect so much comparison. And I think that's what happens when you kind of dig in. As Barney said, we were working on this sort of offline and thinking about like engineering the sort of a broad problem. And we weren't thinking so much about the ecosystem as far as the things that look like it. So that is a really important thing for us. We think that this is like a primitive and a Kubernetes feature that might be missing from clusters versus another solution that's an end-to-end kind of tool that you would use. So the hope actually is that a lot of the things that's getting compared to could be things that could integrate with it or use it as part of Kubernetes. So that's sort of the mission. I just wanted to say that because I think that we all agree with that in the project. Is that sort of the space we were trying to address? Is sort of like, hey, why doesn't Kubernetes just do this? So I just wanted to throw that out there. I think we probably from within the project, and if anybody else is interested as you're digging into the project and getting used to like you're finding the ins and outs of it. Like if you're interested in writing around that, let me know. Just ping me in Slack because I think we could probably do some good to write that down and put it somewhere.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jesse. And I will say, like, when somebody asks the question of, when would you use Project X? The answer is probably a lot of different projects could be used a lot of different ways to solve a lot of different problems. And figuring out as a community what the best, like Jesse said, primitives are that we can create to make it easy for people to create the solutions they want to, really important. I saw JD's hand up and then it went down. Did you have something you wanted to add to that, JD?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to add something where the thing with Crow is it makes it easy for any consumers of these Crow resources to use Kubernetes in a Kubernetes native way. Just to find the CRDs, where with Helms, it's like you still need to maintain and publish a Helm chart somewhere with repositories, and then people need to consume it. But yeah, Jesse, maybe I'll try see if I can reach out to you on that blog post. You can think about that.
Great.
But yeah, the key here
Fantastic.
is like all the Kubernetes native resources without publishing artifacts to an additional
Right.
repository like a Helm repo or something can just be used out of the box.
Right. Fantastic. Okay, great. So let's see. Next up, Amin, want to talk about Google Summer of Code?
Yeah, so I don't think we wrote about this in the Slack channel yet. I think we should do an announcement there. But hooray! Crow made it to GSOC. It's amazing. We've been out like for just a few months. Didn't really expect to make it there, but like, hey, we are here. We are like we have 4 projects for Google Summer of Code. I know like I see a bunch of names in the Zoom meeting, and I can recognize them from some GitHub issues talking about the JSOC project. So welcome to everybody. This is really an awesome opportunity for you to get involved with Crow and learn more about it, contribute, and hopefully like become one of the maintainers in the future. I think this is the whole goal of GSOC is it's not just about the I think it's 3 or 4 months of contribution, but you can learn a lot about Crow and become one of the core contributors in the future. So yeah, I just want to say like welcome to everybody, and I'm so excited to have all the folks here. This is really cool.
Okay, great. And then it looks like Arshi's interested in volunteering as a mentor. And then there were a couple of questions. If people would love to put their name in brackets before their question, then I would know who asked. I don't really know who asked each of these things, but presumably as we get this announcement out, we'll be able to tell people where to start and who is going to help. I don't have those answers at this moment. I don't also know who asked about the VS Code extension API project. Whoever that was, do you want to unmute and clarify that?
Hi, so I don't have actually my webcam set up, but uh, my name is Ansh Bansal, and I am currently a student in third year at IIT Roorkee. So recently I looked into the GSOC website, and Crow was mentioned into it. And I have my experience in software engineering, and I was looking for a low language to start learning cloud services. And I stumbled upon Crow, and then I joined their Slack channel, and now I find that they are looking to make a VS Code extension, which I do have experience building in, and it do align with some things that I want to. Okay, so he does have mentioned some new topics in this website. I will take a look into it, sure.
Wonderful, thank you. And I mean, if you want to drop that link in the chat for people to be able to look at that, that would be really helpful. Okay, great.
Yeah. So
Great.
Frederick like dropped. Honestly, this is super useful. I don't know if Frederick is in the call, but he literally explained how to build this. What we need is what we call a language server that VS Code can communicate with. And actually, that is like very useful because now we can have other IDEs if you use like Vim or Golang, wherever you're using. You can literally like have the auto completion and static validation of your RGDs in the same IDE. So I'm really excited about this. I think it's one of the most important milestones for Crow. So yeah.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, anything more on this topic before we move on to custom resource
I just
versioning?
have a
Yes,
quick
go ahead.
side note. I love VS
Yes.
Code just like everybody, but I'm a Vim person. And so if we do an LSP, we'd also enable like NeoVim and Emacs for all those graybeards. Like that would be a really awesome project
Oh,
beyond VS
I am
Code.
also a VI user, so endorse. Okay. All right. So who wants to talk about resource group definition, CR versioning?
So actually, I think we can leave that one to the end because we can easily talk 2-3 hours about that one. I didn't
Okay.
see like all the
We'll
other
skip that
topics, so
one
we
for
can
now.
we can jump the other one. Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. I also think we could bike shed on art for quite a while, so let's hit the other topics first. Sorry, Yash, but I know how that kind of goes. External references. I would like to discuss that.
I know Barney is working on this one, but I know as well he's
Okay.
probably driving. So
Right,
Barney,
he might
if
be
you
dropping
can,
a kid off. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, if you can talk about this, let us know. If not, I can say a few words about it.
Yeah, why don't you
Sure.
introduce it and then I can take over what I'm implementing and then we'll ask for community comments.
Yeah, sure. So let me open the GitHub issue. I'm gonna drop this one on the chat too. So this is a PR. Sorry, this is the PR. We have a GitHub issue.
Yeah.
So in general, like the goal of external references is to enable Crow to get information outside of what's defined in the RGD itself. I think this is very similar to, it's called Terraform data sources or something like that. Like you want to build like a Terraform module, you want to apply something, but you want to get some sort of information from a different place that is not in your module. Could be an existing resource somewhere in the cloud or like an environment variable or something like that. Anyways, we had like two different ways of doing this. I'm gonna zoom in here. The first one was basically telling to Crow like, hey, this is an external reference or a read-only resource, or whatever you wanna call it. And you can be like, hey, there's this config map that is named this way and labeled this way. If you find that you can like make it usable inside the RGD. And the way you consume this kind of things is like very similar to everything else. You use cell, you can be like, hey, here is my external config map. I want to access the data dot region, for example, in that config map. So it's pretty simple concept. It's very similar to read-only resources, or some people call it also like observed resources or external references, whatever you want to call it. However, Barney and I last week, we were talking about a different approach. The different approach was like, hey, we didn't have to define anything in the RGD, so no new resources, no nodes, just a function. We can do like, hey, an external ref, here is my config map, the namespace and the name, and then we can access something in here. So under the hood, basically, Crow would understand what you're trying to do and will create a virtual node in the graph. It's like, hey, saying this node doesn't really exist, but I'm gonna try to load it before I go and execute everything. However, while this sounds like very cool in theory, in practice is not very complete. And I will say like two things real quick about this. It's not complete because if you're dependent on a resource that has states, there is no way to say like, hey, I want to wait for it to be ready. For example, if your external resource is a cluster, it's very hard to say like, hey, I want this cluster to be active before using it as a data source. So there's no state management. This works only for config maps and secrets, which is fine. And I see Scott.
What would happen if this does not exist? Like if data or something is not there, like is it on Crow to show an error or just assume that things?
So Crow could tell you like, hey, I see that you're depending on a config map and the config map doesn't exist in the cluster. So I'm not gonna go and, like either proceed or execute everything. I mean, there's multiple user experiences in there, but we can definitely block at many levels the execution.
So while you're talking, I was just thinking about, I wonder if it would be an interesting extension to Crow to be able to represent external resources as a CRD locally, and then have the course Crow objects be able to reference things that happen to be reflected resources that sit in the cluster of external things. So there is no external reference support in core Crow templates. It's actually referencing this other arm of Crow that does this off cluster to in cluster reflection.
Yes. So when you reflect into the cluster, it becomes a Kerm object that can then be part of the graph.
Exactly.
Got it.
And then you're delegating edge creation for changes to the other thing that's doing the reflection from external to internal, instead of having to like sort out how to do that inside the normal Crow operator. Just to propose, like, I don't know, we have to think about it, but separating those two concerns of how do we get external state into the internal state, and the easiest way to do that is land it back in a CRD or an instance of something. And so what would that look like to have Crow be able to do this external, potentially read-only reflection of an external thing to make it internal?
So if I understand very well, you're saying that we could have a CRD that has one sole purpose, is to be a reflection of something else. That is not a write, it's only a read-only, it gives you the state of something else. And Crow doesn't have to understand what is a read-only resource. It's just like orchestrates everything else.
Yeah, it doesn't care. It's the same as everything else at that point. And so rather than special case this weird thing into this new weird pattern, you extend the project to say, well, we're gonna take that weird pattern and make it common again, and then everything still works.
Yeah. So if you look at the implementation that I've attached with this bug, so I'm treating it as a first-class resource with an additional field that says read-only. So it's neither of what's presented here. So it's part of the graph. It's marked read-only, so we don't apply. And you can have all the goodness of what comes with the resource object in a graph. Like you can have include when or ready when, all those conditionals can be part of it. So it is a reference to another KRM object, and that's it.
I'll have to take a look.
Okay, it sounds like this is definitely worth more discussion. So I
One,
think
one thing,
maybe, yes, go ahead.
one last thought. I really love the idea of using a reflection CRD, whatever we want to call it, and then leave Crow as is. I think we can still benefits from the ready when and include when, which by the way are undocumented features. I know like you hear like ready when and include when, but they are undocumented on purpose. Is it like my thought? I think Scott, maybe what we can do here is that if you want to like drop your thought on the GitHub issue, that would be really great. I think we can explore it there and see if we can like have a reconciler within Crow, or maybe a side controller within Crow called, I don't know, the reflection controller, something like that. But it really feels like something that could live outside of Crow actually. And I love that those separation of concerns. I love like doing one small thing that does it very well. So yeah.
I spent about 90 seconds thinking about it. So yeah, I'll have to go read the issue actually. In the yard, so.
Okay. All right, worth further discussion for sure. Let's see, moving on to CR breaking changes detection. Who was this? Who put this topic on?
Sorry, that was me. Let me
Great.
add my name. So
Yeah.
I don't want to talk a lot about it. I just opened the PR. It's open for reviews and roasts as well. I'm very happy with that. I just dropped this, I think it was yesterday, yes. So basically, let me explain. When you create an RGD, what is it? Let me do this. So for example, this RGD in here, you define your fields, image name, ingress enabled, and one day you add a new field that is required. For example, like, hey, I want you to pick as required. That's a breaking change in the CRD. So unless if you add a default, it's not a breaking change. So how do we understand what is a breaking change and what is not? That PR is exactly doing that. It compares the desired CRD with the observed CRD in the cluster and tells you if something is mismatching. And it can also help you figure out what's wrong with the new definition or your updates. So this is like just more of a protection mechanism. We can also like move it to do other CRD validations in the graph itself. But yeah, I just want to say that's open for reviews, and very happy to take feedback.
Awesome. It looks like
another
Scott
topic
has
that
thoughts.
we pushed it to the later, but this bumps into how do we deal with versions of CRDs, and then this shape needs to change to look more like what CRDs look like, right?
Okay.
Yes.
So kind of transitioning right into that topic then. Let's talk about it. We'll time
Yeah.
box it, but let's talk about it.
Yeah, this can be considered a safe mode where we don't allow breaking changes, and then we need a way where we allow breaking changes.
Yeah, I guess the question is around if you want to introduce a breaking change, you could bump the version, but then how do I tell Crow to migrate between versions?
Yep.
A little bit related, there is a cap in Kubernetes right now. I think it's in alpha today. It's called the mutation admission policies. Maybe it's something we could leverage under the hood. If you bump versions, Crow could see the diff between CRDs and generate mutation webhook policies for you. I don't know. This is one of the thoughts. I'm not sure if it's really a good idea to solve this problem in Crow itself. The way I see is that like, hey, maybe the CLI could be helpful here. Maybe we can like defer some of the responsibility to the CLI and then let Crow stay like a minimalistic controller. But again, I think honestly, this whole version and topic probably needs a big document explaining, like talking about all the edges and getting all the thoughts from all the people in the community and figuring out how to solve it. But yeah, for the PR, it's very simple. Actually, it doesn't accept multiple versions. It's very explicit. Like it's expecting for the API version to stay the same. It only compares the schemas if something changes, like in those types. That's it. It's made on that on like especially for just like for this early stages. I've seen like some people breaking the CRDs by like adding required fields. So like, hey, that's pretty easily computable. But yeah, I agree with you, Scott. There is a bigger picture here, and I think probably one of the most important problems to solve in code is here.
And I think I want to point out that this is what actually makes Crow interesting and how it relates to why people compare it to Helm, especially when you use like the Helm dependencies. Imagine a world where you have two teams that depend on each other implicitly, and then the third team is using those things. Well, other teams they're free to change their underlying templates without the consuming team understanding that. It'll just kind of happen if this all works out right, which is pretty cool.
All right. Awesome. So this is obviously a bigger topic that we're going to hopefully have a more detailed design doc for, and perhaps can go into some detail on next time. Let's see. We have a question from Arsh about being ready to merge some mysterious item. Shall we look at the mysterious item?
Yeah, for context, like I had a PR and gave it a review. I think we need someone else to give it a pass as well. So I just wanted to highlight this up in the list. If someone has time to take a look at it, that'd be really great.
I can take a look.
Thanks, Barney.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Speaking of
Yes.
reviews, sorry, Bridget. Speaking of reviews, please, we need reviewers. So if you see open PRs and you have thoughts, you have ideas, and you have questions, please feel free to go and throw them in there. We need a lot of eyes on this kind of things so that we make sure that we're making the right decisions. It takes some time maybe to grasp what's happening internally, but honestly, any feedback is good feedback for us. So if anyone wants to go and like review maybe the regexes that we have in here, I think I approve this one, but would like to have maybe 1 or 2 more passes on this PR. That would be great.
Wonderful. And I think Walter has thoughts.
Yeah, actually specifically related to that last PR. Kubernetes validation, native type validation, which this has a lot to do with native validation. I believe this has quite a bit to do with native type validation, is a mess right now, which you can probably get from the fact that I already had one level of response. But there is a new cap that is going in right now for 133 called declarative validation. And I, would strongly take a look at that with regards to this. Yeah, Aaron's doing this work for me. So it just I'm not sure it's going to directly affect what you're doing today, Aran, but it will eventually start coming in, and it's probably a good thing to be aware of. So I just want to flag this as what I believe is probably the direction of validation going forwards for Kubernetes.
Thank you for that context, Walter. That's really helpful. All right. And for people who may be coming into Crow and not super familiar with the Kubernetes process, these CAPs, these Kubernetes enhancement proposals, are a more formal way to make sure that everything gets looked at, to make sure that big changes going into Kubernetes are well considered. And so while we don't have a Crow enhancement proposal process quite yet, we certainly are paying attention to what's going on in Kubernetes, because we don't want to duplicate that work, of course. Yes, CREPs, perhaps. We'll see. Okay, I think the next thing on our list is we had an issue where people were looking at art, or had submitted some artwork, and just to forestall any over excitement, we are not going to make live decisions right this second. We are definitely interested in everyone's input, though. So let's take a look, shall we? At the artwork that people are proposing and hear from people. Walter, you still have your hand up. Do you want to add something before we move on? Nope. Okay. All right. So we have a lot of people. Thank you, everyone, for everyone who has put in their time and effort and ideas. And let's see, I know Jesse had gone through and done some thinking about this, so perhaps I'm going to put him on the spot and ask him to talk a little bit about just the goal of having a visual iconography for this project.
Yeah. So I think it's just become commonplace for a project to have a logo. It's sometimes people have logos before they have code. We're more in the other camp where I think of the project Lima. Like Lima was Akahiro's project, and he just started writing code, and everybody was like, "We need a logo to put on slides." So that's sort of where we're at. There's enough interest here. We need a logo to put on slides. So like, I mean, and I noticed when we did the GSOC application, like we don't have a logo. Everybody else does. So some guidance, first for the community, upvote what you like. Please add ideas that you have, things that you don't see here. Maybe you can take a spin with some generative AI tools and try and build one, or just draw something on a napkin and we can always refine it later. This should really be about the idea. So that's community. And then for creation, we're really trying to lean into something that would be unique, that won't be confused with other things. We already have a lot of comparisons, right? So there's some great stuff here. Maybe things start to look a little too much like Kubernetes or Helm. We should probably avoid those ones. Maybe Helm in particular. We don't want to step on their toes. But yeah, I think
Kubernetes
otherwise,
in particular.
well, so there's the other part of this is the Linux Foundation, oversees the CNCF. As part of that, all of the CNCF projects are Linux Foundation projects, and all of their logos are actually protected. The project names are protected. But actually, the reason why this project is called Kube Resource Orchestrator and not Kubernetes Resource Orchestrator is Kubernetes is protected. And so that's why you see so many projects that are for Kubernetes or they start with Kube. So that's the other thing to keep in mind. Any of the logos that look like CNCF logos existing, or obviously commercial logos, business logos, things that are trademarked, we want to stay away from. Power of community is incredible, but we also don't have like an attorney. So let's just sort of do best effort to keep steer clear of things. So other than that, go wild. Anything you like. Obviously, my personal opinion is that simpler things do win out. So keep that in mind as you're ideating. Something that is very complicated tends to not telegraph well as a project logo. But yeah, I've got my favorites on this list so far. Please add more. That's it, I think.
Awesome. And while we don't have a strict timeline, we are definitely, as Jesse said, starting to find that this is a problem we do need to solve as a community sooner rather than later. So we will sort that out. But please continue to put your thoughts in there, and especially your upvotes. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And I think we have another topic. Nick George, you have your name on this weighted queue topic.
Yeah, we had a PR for weighted queues. I linked it there, and we were able to get some feedback. Scott had some really good insight. There was a lot of really detailed conversation here, going back and forth on what the user experience should look like and what the actual pattern for implementation should look like. Mostly wanted to bring it up just to give everybody else an opportunity to kind of review the potential patterns that we could tackle for this and get any other feedback that other individuals had instead of just keeping it siloed to our immediate group that was involved in the convo. So we don't have to go over it right now. I just wanted to share it so people can maybe in their spare time asynchronously look at it as well. But
I want to say a few words on this one. Well, first, hey, thank you so much, Nick, for implementing this. It's really, really important for us to start at least thinking about these problems, and I think this implementation is helping us foresee what Crow would look like in the future. So I really, really dig in this, and thank you also, Scott, for making the first round of reviews. I think I've done a first read, but I didn't get to fully read it yet. So just to give folks context in here, what is this dynamic weighted queues? Here is the problem. Let's say in the future, Crow is handling like 1,000 RGDs, and then you have 1,000 CRs for each RGD. In an environment where you have one controller reconciling so many things using one single queue, you can have issues where like the most important instances don't get reconciled on time. So like, hey, can we have a mechanism where we're saying those RGDs or those CRs or those instances are much more important and critical. I want you to reconcile them as soon as possible instead of waiting for everything to be reconciled. Let's say the controller is starting up. It's just like a restart. You don't want to wait the reconciliation of 20,000 resources before your important ones are getting reconciled. Ideally, you want Crow to start with those instantly. So that's like the thought about it. I am not sure if there is another controller that is implementing this as well. Maybe Scott, I don't know, like if in Knative you run into this kind of issues. A part of
Nothing
me,
at the scale that I think we want to tackle here.
okay,
I don't know of anything.
Walter?
I mean, I'm coming new to this conversation, but it is enough like some other things I've seen that I'll just throw some random thoughts in. I mean, I think certainly we've got some of the systems we work with under the covers like ASO, ACK, and KCC, which sort of have similar concepts. And I would love to know what ASO and ACK have seen. I own KCC, so I'm going to speak to that one. But I would say one of the things we get this from KubeBuilder, where they have a work queue. And one of the bigger problems I've seen is I actually wonder about, I mean, waiting's great, but I mean, queues in general have some odd circumstances. And one of the things I'll say is I almost feel like what you need is something that's queue-like, but not strictly a queue. So you want to be able to prioritize certain kinds of work. And I think you need to be really smart about it. But one of the things I will observe just off the bat that I still want to go and fix and haven't had a chance for the KubeBuilder and KCC pattern is the idea that we have work that we need to do that is just scheduled, and then we have changes that customers have made manually. And I want to be able to just have different points in the queue and go, scheduled work goes here, and anything that is actually done by a user goes straight to the head of the queue, right? Which is not how queues work, but that is, I think, the experience most people want. And I think we should be thinking about maybe beyond waiting. It's like, what is the source of the work? Because I think it strongly influences how you want to react.
So I reference an implementation of Knative calls it two-lane queues, where you have a normal work queue that all reactions happen to, but then if a user does do an edit and it's something that needs to be reconciled, that's not just automation doing automation stuff, it goes into the priority queue of the same work queue. So there's two lanes. We can reference that, lift it. It uses the same work queue interface, so it just is a drag and drop replacement. But it would be best if each kind had its own queue, if you get what I'm saying.
Jesse?
No, I had an abstract thought coming from kernel experience, and Scott just said there's existing prior art in Kubernetes with the same idea. So awesome.
Fantastic. Okay. Wow, this has been an hour goes by so quickly. I want to make sure that we get a quick chance to talk about Milestone, because I know we jumped right to open discussion just because there are so many topics. But I mean, if you want to pop open Milestones and just kind of maybe help answer that exciting question that people always bring up, which is, ooh, the next release, when do we get it? What's going to be in it? Because everyone is excited about that.
Yeah, sure. So we have 2 milestones planned. I don't think we have dates on them, but we're gonna iterate on them very, very fast. I think Barney corrects me if I'm wrong, but we think we can land 0.3 end of next week. I think we have most of the work in there, like most of the PRs are already open. So it's a matter of iterating, getting feedback. If we think that it's not gonna cause any problems in the future releases, or like introduce any backward compatibility issues, We can hold on those. But yeah, we have like 7 items for the milestone 0.3, mainly focusing on external references and CRD breaking changes detection. Some of those are not picked yet. So there's like 2 of them. I think this one is picked by Barney actually, but this one is still free. I don't think it's very complicated. If anyone want to go and you like work on it, please feel free to comment on the GitHub issue. So this is for 0.3. I want to talk about something in 0.4. It's this like I'm really excited about this. We're 0.4, we're talking about collections. So introducing the concept of for loops in RGDs. We think this is like is going to be a very cool one to have. Probably a design doc. There's many ways on how we can address this. But yeah, in terms of like mega features, we have external references coming in 0.3 and collections coming in 0.4. Any questions, thoughts, other things we want to include in one of those releases?
This is a great time to ask if there's something you're wondering why it isn't in there. Right, Scott?
Is there a overall kind of like milestone or roadmap or like wish list, or like is it maybe I haven't found a page, but does the group have like what are we doing next? What do we hope to do?
I can take that one.
Go ahead, Jesse.
I mean, yeah. So so we basically just landed 3 and 4 as active milestone, next milestone, just so people can start getting a sense of where we think priorities are, and very open to people sharing their priorities. I think longer term, we probably want to start doing a couple more milestones. A few of us are working on a longer term roadmap, which is more abstract capabilities, what our goals are for backward compatibility, where do we think Code Complete should land on the calendar, where do we think beta will land. Really no plans beyond that. Kubernetes is a land of V1 Alpha 1 as long as you don't break people. So we're not so much thinking in terms of when's GA, but more where is stability on the calendar. So also open to that. I think we plan to make that public very soon. The reason it's private right now, just between a few people, is just because it's very chaotic and it's a lot of spaghetti. So we want to basically put a sketch out there, but also very open to, community feedback here.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Good topic. All right, we're just about out of time, and I want to respect everybody's schedules. So I'll just say that we will see you folks for this meeting in 2 weeks, and then a number of us are going to be at KubeCon, coming up in London. So for those who will be there, you can definitely find us there as well. Let's see, 2 weeks from today is March 19th. 2 weeks from that is mid KubeCon, and I kind of doubt we'll be doing this meeting during that unless somebody who is not going wants to host it. Barney, what would you like to add?
Oh, just a comment to Scott. So you can look in the bugs, currently open bugs, you can search for mega feature, and those are the kind of big things we're trying to tackle in the future releases. They're a rough indicator of the roadmap.
All right, wonderful. Okay.
Can I add something real quick? I couldn't find the
Absolutely.
raise hand icon in Zoom. So for those like asking for releases and want to like iterate fast on Crow, actually you don't have to wait for releases. Like every time we push to main and there is like a change in the Crow code, we actually publish a container image that you can use. So if you go to packages and you can see, if you look at Crow in here, the controller image, you can see that we had something published 5 minutes ago. I don't know what we merged 5 minutes ago, but maybe a PR that got merged and something just got published right now. So if you cannot wait and you're like, hey, I need this bug fix, please go ahead and pick the last image and go and play with it. So no need to wait for the official tag releases. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Amin. And that does sound like a pull request that could be added to the README. And then also please keep in mind that you are responsible for what you YOLO out into production. So this is not an endorsement of running the latest release in production. Just putting that out there. Okay. Thank you all for your participation and for making this so exciting. And we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Sweet.
Thank you,
Thank y'all.
Bridget. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.